Hello my music enjoyers, today we have one story. Title: Ex's Last Wish, My Husband. As the title says, my 30F husband's ex-girlfriend, 33F, was recently diagnosed with late-stage breast cancer, and her last wish is to be with my husband, 35M. My husband, let's call him Seb, and his ex, Tanya, became best friends after their breakup a couple of years ago due to her infidelity. They were together for 5 years. Needless to say, they remained in contact even before he met me. I would be lying if I said it never made me feel uncomfortable. It did and still does because Tanya is still in love with my husband. She never denied it and, in fact, would even call or message me when she couldn't get a hold of Seb. Besides cancer, she also has some mental health issues, and my husband always tells me to be kind and patient. Seb is no longer in love with her, of course. She cheated, and Seb swore that he would never get back together with her and that he only sees her as family. 2 weeks ago, my husband received a call from Tanya to tell him about her diagnosis. My husband cried with her and reassured her that everything would be okay. They were on the phone the entire day. I should mention that Seb and I moved to Australia a few months ago because of my job, and Tanya is in Canada. They mostly talk via long-distance calls or WhatsApp. They've been in contact almost every day since we left, which always bothers me, but what can I do? After that call, my husband told me everything. To be honest, I felt bad for her and genuinely sad. I asked him what's going to happen now. Seb told me he's going back to Canada. This was a shock. He then told me that her last wish is to be with him. I didn't say anything except, what about me? He said if I can't leave my job, then he's going to visit me whenever he gets the chance. I walked out without saying anything. I've been avoiding my husband since the phone call and have been ignoring him whenever he tries to bring up the conversation. Yesterday, I found out he already bought a ticket and is flying back home in January. I feel like he's abandoning me, but at the same time, I feel selfish for hating both of them. I'm honestly thinking of getting a divorce because, obviously, he's choosing her over me. But at the same time, I thought about why my husband is so attached to her. Seb considers Tanya and her family like his own, as he doesn't have one. She's probably like a sister to him now. But Tanya doesn't feel the same. She's madly in love with my husband, and him granting her wish will surely make her think they still have a chance. My entire life, I've been putting others first. I've been very patient and understanding about their weird relationship. I feel sick and confused. I want to call her and yell at her for ruining my marriage, for trying to steal my husband from me, for using her sickness to get what she wants. For being a manipulative person. I'm so mad at both of them. What did I do to deserve this? I keep replaying every interaction with Tanya in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed, wondering if I should have been more assertive about my discomfort. I remember the times when Seb would drop everything to help her, and I convinced myself it was just because of their long history and his good heart. Now, I wonder if I was just fooling myself. I've sacrificed so much for our relationship, moving across the world, adjusting to a new life, while Seb seems willing to drop everything for his ex at a moment's notice. Every night, I lie awake, torn between my love for Seb and the gnawing feeling of betrayal. I wonder if I'll ever feel secure in our marriage again or if this will always be a shadow hanging over us. Part of me wants to fight for our marriage, to remind Seb of the life we've built together. But another part of me wonders if it's worth it, if I can ever compete with the ghost of his past and the bond he shares with Tanya. I can't shake off the feeling of being trapped in a situation where no one seems to consider my feelings. It's like I'm invisible, expected to be the understanding, supportive wife while my husband attends to his ex-girlfriend's needs. Where do my needs fit into this equation? How do I cope with the resentment and hurt building inside me? I'm lost, hurt, and incredibly angry. I just want to understand why my feelings seem to matter the least in this entire scenario. Why does it feel like I'm the one who has to keep sacrificing? What about my dreams, my wishes, and my happiness? It feels like no matter what I do, I'm destined to come second in Seb's heart and mind. Update. It's been over a year, and a lot has happened. I think I'm now ready to talk about it. Seb did end up flying back to Canada in January last year. Before he left, we talked about the situation, and I told him I had been in contact with a divorce lawyer. He was surprised. He said he didn't expect me to leave him just because he needed to be with his family. At the time, all I felt was anger. I was so mad that he made it sound like I was the bad person. The conversation didn't end well. He left without any closure, but he said he would be back in March. I was left alone. January to March last year were the darkest days of my life. I knew I did nothing wrong, but I ended up blaming myself for everything. I hate to admit it, but I canceled the meeting with my lawyer as I started to doubt whether I really wanted to leave him. I loved him so much that I was willing to accept him again when he returned. During the entire time he was gone, he rarely called to check on me. I had to call him most of the time. I know, I'm dumb. I felt so alone and sad. I begged for his attention, to give me some of his time, to be with me again. Every time, he told me that Tanya needed him more. In March, I was expecting him to come back so we could talk. But he didn't come back. He said he needed to stay longer and promised he would be back in May. When I got that call from him in early March telling me he wouldn't be flying back to Australia, something in me changed. I felt like a switch suddenly turned off, and I stopped caring. When he told me he wouldn't be back until May, I knew I had to move forward without him. Fast forward to May, he returned. That day, we sat down to talk. He broke down and said, "I can't lose you too." When he said that, I thought Tanya had passed away. But no, she hadn't, and as far as I know, she's still alive today. I asked what happened, and he told me that Tanya had asked him to go back and be with me. He said that Tanya was sorry for everything. Seb didn't want to leave her, especially when he saw how bad she was doing. They had a fight, and according to him, Tanya wanted him out of her life. If I was the same person as before, I would have accepted him back. But all I could think was, he's only back because Tanya doesn't want him anymore. I let him cry. I comforted him and let him stay in my apartment. A week later, I told him I was divorcing him. At first, he refused to leave. It was a long and painful process, but on my birthday in July, he finally realized that he couldn't manipulate me anymore. By August, he was back in Canada. The divorce isn't finalized yet, but we have been separated since he left. He tried to contact me several times last year. Tanya also tried to contact me. Everyone, including my family, tried to convince me to give him a second chance. But that day in March, when I finally came to my senses, I knew nothing could change my mind. As of now, I'm doing fine on my own. I got promoted last year and moved to a bigger apartment near the beach. I found new friends and recently started getting into Pilates. I've traveled around Australia and New Zealand and met some amazing people. I feel like a completely different person. Last year was a major turning point in my life. Seb still bothers me from time to time, but he knows I couldn't care less anymore. Sometimes I talk to him. I still care, but not as much. I've been told by our mutual friends that he's not doing well. He became an alcoholic and couldn't get a good job because of it. He's mostly couch surfing because Tanya doesn't want him to live with her. That's karma, I guess. Thank you so much, Reddit, for taking the time to read this and my post last year. Your advice means a lot to me. For those in the same situation as me, please know that everything is going to get better. I thought I couldn't get through this. There were times I thought of taking my own life. It was hard, but I promise you, it will get better. You'd be surprised how strong you are and how amazing life can be.